Catholic.
It's go.
Oh, really?
I love that song. Good morning. It is Sunday, and welcome back from church. And we are just absolutely outstanding here today, and just trying to figure out what the hell is going on with 2026. I mean, we've gotten off to a hella start, but we have so much to talk about, so much to get to. We really need to get into a rotation. Let's hit it. Fun fact, we are coming up on the 65th anniversary of the Bay of Pigs. Now, for those of you who don't remember the Bay of Pigs, it was this fun little time, and we decided we were going to finally get that sugar from Cuba that we tried to get at the turn of the century when we were running the Spanish-American War, and it didn't turn out as well as we would like. But for some odd reason, I have this strange feeling we're about to get into it again. And it takes us away from so many things that are so important in life, like cannabis legalization, that it really puts things in perspective. We have so many different topics that we have to deal with as far as politics is concerned. And that is why I think it's fantastic that we have our guest today. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Gary Stein. I'm the Political and Policy Director for Suncoast Normal. That is the weakest sounding applause I have ever heard, at least on my side. Oh, so much better, though. It sounds like my toilet flushing twice. And
I got to right lower, or else it sounds weird.
I was applauding in my heart, Gary. I was applauding.
Give you a...
There you go. And to my right, possibly your left, I'm not certain, we have our Deputy Director, Master of Business Administration, and the proprietor of Chillum CBD and Mushroom Dispensary on 7th Avenue in Ybor City, Carlos Angel Jose Armida.
Thank you.
Who is also our token Cuban, I guess, today. We don't have Chris.
Yes, Gary, I am a Cuban.
The last I heard. You have the beard for it. You just need that khaki little hat with the short brim that Fidel used to always wear. You don't wear that one.
No, I don't wear that.
I can't see why. But our executive director, Chris Cano, has just come back from the road. He's not going to make it today, but we have him in our heart. And below us right here, he's our guest for today. It works out. But anyways, we are now in 2026, and that means that we are on the road to the midterms. And so that means we got about 10 months to figure out who the heck to vote for. Now, it'll get the field will get smaller in August when we have our primaries here in Florida. But we need to start learning who the people are who are running for office so we can see who's going to make the change that we need right now. And believe me, after looking at this the first couple of weeks of 2026, we need a lot of change. Some things we're asking for, some things we are not asking for. But here is a person who is interested in actually making a change in the 12th Congressional District here in Florida, which is Hernando County, and it's also part of Pasco County as well. But and this is Chris Irizarry. Chris, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well, Gary. Thank you so much for having me.
Quick wrap. What made you decide to run for office in Blood Red Hernando County?
Yes. Blood Red Hernando County. Yes. So Congressional District 12, and I get this question a lot. People ask where that is, and it's because it's been moving around. I'll just clarify that Congressional District 12, as of right now, entails all of Citrus County, all of Hernando County, and the majority of Pasco County, where I reside. The reason why I got into it, just for a little bit of background on me, I was 8 years in the U.S. Army, I'm a veteran. I had just retired in September of 2024 from CIA. My wife and I, we came home because we had family in the area. We were joined by more family in the area, and we were just looking to start our next chapter. Well, like many people, I was extremely disappointed by the results of the last election, and was really just looking for, looking for some tie-in, some hope and everything to the situation. I went to a presentation by our current representative in Congressional District 12, Gus Bilirakis, and he gave a presentation on all the wonders of Doge, and I was wholly unimpressed. And then I started hearing about this gang of Doge running through our federal government, taking data out of the Treasury. And I just had a sick feeling about what was going on. And I realized that I took 2 oaths and served this country for 24 years of my life. I just could not sit here and watch that continue. So after consulting with my family, I decided to file, and I've been campaigning ever since June of last year.
Quick question. You mentioned in fact you took 2 O's. Did somewhere in there it also mention that as in standard training that you are not allowed to follow an unlawful order? I mean, this is actually something that I don't even know why it's a topic of conversation. It's always been at the front of the boot training, at the boot camp training manual, correct?
Yes. Actually, that is. Although I don't remember the day exactly, obviously in my training, that was early on, and that was a foundational lesson to people coming into the military. That what we do, you're going to take difficult orders. You're going to have to follow them. We need discipline. You need training. We need to make sure that everything is in place for you to do the mission and not fail your battle buddies. However, you are under no obligation to follow an order that is illegal. And we acknowledge at the time, in the military training that we got, acknowledged it was tough. That would be a tough situation for one person to find themselves in. But if we could offer any type of clarity on that, it was that you are under no obligation to follow an illegal order.
I mean, I grew up in the age of My Lai. I remember Sergeant Calley. I remember that he was the only person who took the blame for that massive slaughter of people in Vietnam, because they were given an unjust order, and they were afraid not to follow. Basically, it was the situation, because they could lose their pension, they could lose, they could be discharged. I mean, they take so much chance just to follow the rule that they were given at the very beginning. That must be mind-boggling as to how to handle that situation.
Yes, and that is why the foundational training that we received included that, because of My Lai, and because people are out there. It is, the military is not perfect in anything, but there's no system that is. So you may feel that there may be people who are able to get through screening and are able to ascend to positions of authority who violate the power dynamic, who use their rank and influence to leverage pressure on others. And to the credit the U.S. Army and the Department of Defense, they saw in their infinite wisdom that this was an issue. They were not going to be able to, I would imagine, if that got out, they weren't going to be able to maintain their troop levels and needed to do something about that. So, but there are still people who would do that, because there are people that are inclined to do that. But yes, it's again, foundational training. Legal orders are not something that you need to follow.
Carlos, your family is Cuban, as we've mentioned many times before, and
yes,
your dad is.
I am Cuban,
and this means he does not put salami in his Cuban sandwiches, guys.
No, that is an Italian thing.
That is just a foundational thing about the Cuban folks in Tampa, is they said no to salami. It was more of a, like you said, it was basically, we happen to have an Italian part of town, and they kind of intervened. But your dad is on the conservative side.
Yes.
Has he been saying anything to you in regards to what's going on in Venezuela and Cuba right now?
I've been avoiding it.
Mhm.
I think they're pretty excited about it. We haven't had a full on real conversation about it, so this really isn't like his words specifically, but I think there's an anticipation there that when he's done with Venezuela, he'll head over to Cuba and get rid of the Castro regime.
Well, the post-Castro regime, at least.
Yeah, I mean, well, isn't there a Castro in charge right now? There's Raul Castro, or did he die?
Right now, Raul stepped down, and he put in his chosen successor, who's basically a puppet. But I don't know that Raul is actually doing anything anymore, other than pressing the button for that supersonic thing that keeps on giving all of our agents out there bad headaches and things of that sort. That somebody's pressing that button. I don't know exactly who it is, but could be Putin, could be the Raul Castro folks. I have no idea. I don't think you've heard any buzz about that, have you, Chris?
No, not since I left. I obviously I'm not sure I could really go into that right now. That was something obviously was an issue that we were dealing with. I don't know if there has been any more clarity since that.
Well, what does Cuba want more? Do they want the regime to change or just more car parts? Because
I think Cubans are a very complicated topic. It's a very complicated group of people. And I think a lot of the Cubans in Miami, well, in America, but specifically the Cubans that came over in like the 60s, are probably more into the regime change than car parts.
Now, Rubio, his family actually left before Fidel Castro came to power.
He was a Baptista, what do you call it? Immigrant.
Yeah, he came over before Castro, when the Copacabana was still in full bloom and all that bit back in the 50s. So, but to call him a refugee from Cuba, not exactly the same thing, is it?
I mean, there's I'm not so sure about Rubio's story. Part of me thinks that he was born in America, right?
Correct.
But I'm not necessarily sure about. He might have been a kid when he came over, but he's still a refugee. He's just, it sounds different than what it is. You know what I mean? Like he came over before that fascist regime took place. You know what I mean? Like
that's the issue. I mean, some people come for asylum, some people come for work, and in a lot of cases, the pan boat lift and all of it, that was basically an asylum kind of situation.
And I basically what's interesting and what was a kind of like a smack in my face this year during holiday dinners or whatnot is the idea that the Cubans that came over in the 60s don't necessarily want more Cubans to come over. You know what I mean? Like they look at them as kind of different people, like they were, the Cubans here were the ones that escaped, and they're the ones that love freedom, and the Cubans over there, and this isn't my words, I like the Cubans over there, but it seems like the Cubans over in Cuba now have gotten used to communism. They're used to people handing things to them. They're used to breaking the law all the time. They're criminals. I mean, let's look at the facts. All right. So when Castro took over, Cuba was a very segregated country, right? It was a lot like it was here, right? There were a lot of black people in the lower class, or a lot of white people in the upper class, right? Granted, here in America, they weren't exactly white people, but they're Latinos. But over in Cuba, they thought of themselves as European, Spanish, white people, And when Castro took over, a lot of the people of Africa, the Afro Latinos, if you will, and even the native Latinos in the island, were pretty excited because the white European Spanish people were no longer rich, and they were bridging the gap between, the way we look at it is they took all the money from the upper and middle class. But the lower classes were pretty excited about that. And the people that came over in the 60s, I understand that my parents were part of it, but there were certain bias that came with that class status, and they still maintain those biases, and they don't want, poor, lower class people coming over and representing themselves. They look at themselves as different from the people on the island at this point.
Yeah, my understanding when I was growing, I grew up in South Florida. I was born in Jackson Memorial Hospital in Hialeah, and I grew up in the northern part of Dade County, which since I've been gone, they've called it Miami-Dade County, and I don't know. Nobody called me to check with me on that one, but anyway, our understanding and growing up was that the Cubans that came over in the wake of Castro's takeover was what you effectively see when there becomes a power or a dictator like Castro, where many of the people who can leave, who have the resources to do so, they did. Now that first wave of Cubans that came over, they were your doctors, your lawyers. Cuba was subjected to in disruptions, in disruptive eras such as that. A country experiences amongst its population a brain drain, where people who can and who have the capabilities to keep a country running smoothly, they leave. What I think what happened later on around the Mariel boat lift around 1980s, which I was very young when that was taking place, you had many of the people who are coming over who, for no fault of their own, were the product of that regime, where free speech was oppressed, where things were many people were thrown in prisons and locked up for as political prisoners. So I can see why there would be there's a distinction amongst them, and it may be that that they weren't the people that came over in the 1980s were viewed as that. Well, they were a product of the only Cuba that was available at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's not that much weed in Cuba as a result of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm trying to bring it back to marijuana. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead and do that, because I'm frozen again. I'm gonna have to fix this.
Yeah. See that? Yeah.
Well, Chris, I've been dying to ask you a question here.
Sure.
I understand that you were part of the CIA, and yes. I just was wondering if you ever met White Boy Rick.
Have I met White Boy Rick? See the expression on my face that should give you an answer. No, I'm not.
No,
there's a lot of people I haven't met. So
a popular movie about him that came out where it wasn't even the CIA, it was the FBI. I'm still messing around, but this idea that the FBI, was utilizing South America to spread drugs into America. And there's this gentleman, White Boy Rick, who was a 16-year-old in Detroit, that they hooked him up with some drugs.
Oh yeah. It may have been a little bit outside of my realm of responsibilities, but I have heard the reference to a White Boy Rick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that's I don't know. There is exciting ideas happening down in South America. I'm so tired of talking about Venezuela. I'm so tired about talking about Cuba and whatnot, and I'm honestly tired about talking about Trump at this point. But going back to the whole marijuana idea, there's a lot of exciting things. I mean, South America is known for bringing about the term sensimilla, and those areas were big on cannabis and cannabis consumption, and they really affected the U.S. in that way. I don't know how you feel particularly about marijuana legalization here in the US, but maybe we can go into that a little bit rather than what's going on with Trump and shit.
Sure,
Um,
absolutely. Mhm.
So there's a couple of things going on in Florida right now. But you're running for a Congress district, and
Yes.
I don't know, this whole idea behind the big beautiful bill
Mm,
and how it was snuck into the big beautiful bill that
mhm.
hemp is now going to become illegal in all 50 states.
Yes. Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just trying to see if you could get a comment from that. The idea that like a law that could bring down an industry could be just snuck into a piece of legislation and never
Yes.
discussed and
Right.
never
Yes.
talked about and just
Mhm.
surprisingly brought about is really more so what I'm looking for you to comment on.
Right, right. Well, I've just been in politics and everything. Well, not really into politics but just campaigning for a year. So I am just as befuddled as anyone, just as being new to the game, so to speak. Um, just seeing how marijuana use over the years, I've always been an advocate, or at least an ally of the idea that yes, we should be legalizing this either for medical use or recreational use. Both is my preference. I grew up in Miami. That was my first experience with marijuana through friends, through other means. I'll leave it at that. But one thing I never saw of it were all the resistance, the misgivings about it. Look, I'm in my mid 50s right now, and when I came back to Florida, I started having back pains and everything. Well, I looked into it. I've got lower back discs and everything that are starting to bulge, and as well as with the physical therapy that I've pursued to mediate that condition. I also have my medical marijuana card and everything. I just appreciate having a choice and having agency over my own pain management uh, situation. And I believe that everybody should be able to have that. And when you see legislation that, first of all, there's huge barriers to getting into that industry where it only serves like a few organizations that make all the money. And then, if you run smack dab into that, or even, pierce that outer bubble, then you have an inner bubble, a bubble of a thicket of influence and patents that people hold, and legal policies and everything of that nature in place to serve them. But then so you have this, robust, defense of this, and now you're cratering it. It may just be just an indication of all the work that Normal has done over the years, or on all the marijuana advocates over the years, who have been day in, day out, year in, year out, grinding towards this objective. And the only thing that the people who were actually in charge of the bulwarks and the thicket of patents and the lawyers and everything else, the only thing they could do was, well, let's just keep these efforts from getting anything, and cratering it themselves and scuttling their own industry.
Well,
I'm just speculating. I don't know if that's it, but that's just what
well,
it looks like to me.
let me tell you something that I've noticed, and this actually is interesting because I mean we've got some things in common here. We both grew up in South Florida, which has for a long time been
305, 305.
Hey,
Yeah.
I was born in Baptist Hospital. You're bragging about your hospital earlier. I was born in Baptist, and I grew up in Pembroke Pines. I'm South Broward, so I'm not too far from where you came up.
Okay, yeah.
But we both grew up in South Florida, which is very conservative. But yet we made a comment that actually the people in South Florida were very, very friendly towards marijuana. And we're both liberal guys, and we're both pro legalization. But I've seen a pattern, and it just seems to the fact that a Republican is president and things like hemp becoming illegal, being passed in the big beautiful bill. I don't think that's a fucking coincidence. You know what I mean? We see, maybe not enough, but we do see progress when there's liberals in charge. And definitely not enough, but we do see a little bit of progress, and we see kind of this recession. The idea that both parties look at cannabis in the same way, right, as far as lawmakers are concerned, right, is ridiculous to me. It's always a Republican in the way of some sort of legislation passing. Why
just
is
seems to
there this?
be, just a lot of triangulation in the progress. I mean, what we see progress and everything, and it's just constantly going back and forth, and it is exhausting.
But
So
most Republicans, whether they're MAGA or anti-MAGA or libertarian, whatever it is, most conservatives, right, do believe in legalization change. Why is there this disconnect?
that is a great question. It is it's one of those things that I really don't understand. Now, my belief and my support for legalization of marijuana is just born out of my own practical experience. I'm certainly not the experts of the industry and developments and everything as you normal and your guests have been. But I just see it from a person to person stance. I use medical marijuana for my back. I have family members who have used medical marijuana to deal with their ailments, and there is a more controlled way. I know it helps people get over their misgivings that they have with opiates, that they keep saying, from current and previous administrations are killing Americans by the tens of thousands. Well, okay. Why don't we just allow it to where somebody could just sit there and smoke on their balcony, either to deal with their anxiety or their pain management or their sleep, or just because they want to? Well, we can't do that. Well, I do not understand that. So it is, yeah. But my goal, if I could play it, and if I could be, to use a military term, if I could be a foot soldier in a fight, one of them would definitely be making sure that we get to that ultimate goal of legalization across the board in all 50 states.
Gary, while you were gone, I asked Chris a question, and I think you would appreciate it. But apparently, Chris has never met White Boy Rick.
Well, that's a Detroit question, not necessarily a CIA question.
You don't think less of me, do you? Come on.
Not at all. White Boy Rick, by the way, he has a very good brand of cannabis products coming in the Michigan menu. Is fair, but yeah.
Although that does get that is an interesting question. It's certainly showing a changing of the times. I always used to get asked, it was like, have I ever met the little green dudes with the big eyes in the basement of the headquarters and everything? That's typically what I get asked.
That's a good question. Do you think marijuana is from outer space?
I don't know. Sometimes it takes me there when I use it. So
we're getting into the Pangea thing where we're just basically seeded from another planet.
Yep.
But I was wondering, as you were talking there, are you still accessing the VA for most of your medical care? And do they ever interfere with your having a medical card?
Actually, you know what? To full disclosure, because I've just recently settled, and the VA is not I have not been able to establish that as far as my be my primary care provider. However, I have rationed my use of the VA, so to speak, because of the staffing and resource deficiencies that have been brought on by the aforementioned big bullshit bill and everything. I know that's not your parlance, but that, everybody who's within the sound of my voice will know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I was able to go through other means, I know that there are veterans out there who would need that a lot more than me. So I'm in that case, I'm rationing my use of the VA, something that I should be entitled to make sure that other veterans who don't have all the options to go get that stuff first. My pain management is something I could manage outside the VA. I would love to be able to sit down and get a conversation with VA, but as soon as we definitely need to make sure that that is better resourced and better staffed, and a better asset to our veterans out there who would need it more than me. I would love to walk into a VA and everything, not because I can't, is because I choose to make sure that their time and their efforts and everything are more in line with the people who need it.
I apologize for being frozen right now. So you have to assume that my lips are moving when I'm talking. But I showed you a video, I think, that I did of Gus Bilirakis in his Tahoe truck. And we talked about access of veterans to cannabis. And he said, well, we're going to be looking into that. I serve on a committee that is going to be doing that. And I looked and and looked to see what happened after that conversation that actually forwarded the opportunity for veterans to be able to access cannabis, especially for PTSD, which is probably one of the #1 reasons they use it along with pain meds. And I saw nothing. I saw no movement at all towards what he had sat there in his car and promised me was going to happen next.
Right.
And we continue to have a conversation. He can continue to say the same thing. We're going to look into that. It reminds me of somebody else in DC who was constantly saying, yes, well, we're looking into that. And we'll probably have a policy in 2 weeks. But I haven't seen the emotion.
Yeah. When it comes to that, when it comes to particularly right now with the Representative Bilirakis, he does seem to be in line with the president and everything, where he has a concept of what he would do, but it never really seems to materialize. And I've managed, and I think I'm one of the few people who actually managed to get into one of his actual live town halls, if you can call them the town halls. They seem to be they're very cloistered and not announced with a whole lot of leeway. I think many people, listeners here and everything, will probably agree. But I was able to get a ticket into one of his, or not really a ticket, just get into one of his briefings, and he talked about how he brought all this money to hospitals, and veterans are his #1 priority, and how he was, just making sure that, that this is what we need to do. Now, this is, mind you, this is obviously in the wake of the big bullshit bill that was passed. And he was confronted by a veteran and said, well, but what do you say about the cuts to all the staffing? Because that was, you cut more and it was bad to begin with. And then that's when he went to lament. He's like, well, we just had to get rid of those people. They're just there waiting for paychecks and pensions. And yeah, we just had to get rid of them. Okay, who's next? He just had to get he had to show his fealty by throwing out that conservative talking point that, this was, we're just getting rid of waste and everything. So he definitely showed with that statement what his priorities are. And I just can't abide by that. So,
well, he's in the Armed Forces Committee. I think he's one of the heads of the Armed Forces Committee. So he is really seminal in decisions being made in those things. And to have somebody who's talking the talk but not doing any walking, actually, is of concern to me for our veterans, who I have a great deal of concern for. Both my wife and I are from military families.
Yes.
And although I do have a lot of military folks who tell me I can't talk for them because I wasn't military myself, unfortunately, my asthma, which came from exposure to paraquat, kind of knocked me out of that opportunity when I went ahead and tried to enlist. But I just think that we really need to have somebody who has had boots on the ground, who has had those hard decisions to make in regards to being a part of the military, as far as offering your life in service to this country, and yet being told to make hard decisions like that.
Yes. And I just want to be clear and everything. I know Gus did not serve, That doesn't mean that anybody who did not serve can't be a strong advocate for veterans and veterans issues. I just want to be clear about that. I will listen to anybody, and I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with anybody who could do the job that needs to be done to make sure that all veterans have fully funded, fully staffed access to the needs that can be provided by the VA. I totally get that, and I'm on board for that. But eventually, and I also don't want to dismiss, the difficulty of trying to get stuff through committee, through rewrites, to go back to the Senate, have the adjustments, come back to. I get that whole process, and everything can be difficult. But eventually, you got to earn. Eventually, you have to show something. And if you continue to talk, well, we're going to look at this study to see which way we can go, that's not leadership. That is just slipstreaming behind the churn. Eventually, if you do this for long enough, you're just slipstreaming behind the churn, hoping nobody will notice. Well, I'm noticing, and the voters of District 12 have noticed, and they've noticed for a long time. So if you want to continue to look into these passion projects of mapping out sinkholes that have phosphorates and everything, fine. Draw the line between the needs that people are asking you to service, such as VA resourcing. If you can do that, then I'm on board. We can talk about that. But until then, until you can actually show appreciable progress towards the goal that serves VA, that serves the veterans of your district, then you really need to move on. That's just
now. Right now, we're dealing with a situation where the president has said that he is going to move forward with trying to get cannabis rescheduled from Schedule 1, which puts it at the same level as heroin and all that bit as far as abuse and not having any medical value, to Schedule 3, which means you have medical value, but it's still illegal federally, which means if a veteran who gets his medication for his PTSD somewhere will still get arrested.
Yeah. What are some examples of some Schedule 3 drugs, Gary?
See, now you cut me off guard.
Klonopin is a good example.
Yeah, that would be a great one.
Yeah.
And
I think what Gary's alluding to is we actually have a comment in coming in from our YouTube where somebody has asked, with the federal government moving towards rescheduling marijuana to Schedule 3, what is your plan to ensure this doesn't just benefit large pharmaceutical companies?
Well, see, that would be one thing that actually talks about some of the other issues that we have with the cannabis industry right now, are really the providers that they come through. You have right now, what is it? It's seed to sale ownership of medical marijuana. So what it would ultimately have to do, it would have to go through these companies if we were going to schedule that. If we were actually going to allow veterans to say, hey, listen, part of your pain medication, part of your treatment here, we say that, yes, we're absolutely going to sign a prescription for medical marijuana so this can be covered at the federal level. So then you can actually go and get that and not have to take on the out-of-pocket cost yourself if this is something that you need. I believe that. What we also have to do is just make sure that there are more options for this, for somebody to actually be able to do that. What we probably have to do right now is what we've been talking about with everything, that the outsized influence of pharmaceuticals on our policymakers on both sides of the house, and just try to figure out where we can do that. But I do believe that it is possible to be able to do that. Also, I want to say this and everything, there are things that we can do with more nuance. There may be issues where there is going to be some connection with the let me see, what am I looking for? With the pharmaceuticals, with companies, with people who have shareholders and everything. I believe there's a possibility for us to be able to serve the veterans and be able to do that. But when more and more regulations come on board that seem to be aimed more towards industry than patients, then that's when I think we need to reevaluate our priorities.
When you say industry over patients, I think you're hitting the nail right on top of the head. I think probably about 80% of the problems that people have with the cannabis industry in the United States in general is the fact that it's becoming monopolized. You know, and that's a big concern here in Florida, but you know, it's for the sake of argument. Let's look at California. You know, California. I lived in California in 2013. I think of California in 2011 when they just had medical to be the freest state as far as what cannabis is concerned. Because not only was mom and pop industry allowed to exist, but you know, cops were under the opinion, they were like, hey, like, you know, I don't want to waste my time with this bullshit. I used to shop at a place called Oakland Organics, right? It was right in the middle of downtown Oakland, and it was right in front of the police station. So you walk outside of Oakland Organics with a stapled brown paper bag, and there's 3 or 4 cops sitting on their cop car right out front, drinking coffee and, you know, having a break. And what they know exactly what's in that bag. You know what I mean? They're more concerned with murder. They're more concerned with gang violence. They're more concerned with all the bullshit the Oakland Police Department has to deal with, right? Than what's in that fucking brown paper bag.
Yes.
But then look what happened. They legalized adult use, right? These corporate cannabis companies were allowed to come in and kind of monopolize the system. And now it's thought of as more restrictive. Now it's, you know, cops are actually arresting more people. And then we can talk about what's happening here in Florida, you know, from the get-go, from the very before amendment, the amendment for medical use was enacted, right? We had a law that was passed that was allowing cannabis companies to come in and monopolize the system before it even was enacted. You know, I think that's the main problem, is that now there's a cannabis industry that likes the way things are right now. They don't necessarily want legalization. They want Schedule 3 because they want to have the, you know, the ability to research it. They want to have that tight hold on everything. They want hemp to go away. You know? What do you think about that? What do you think about the corporate cannabis industry?
Well, every time I go out and I speak to groups, I ask them, a lot of them, especially when I know that there are probably some people who have misgivings about living in a red state, in a red county, and being at a meeting with a Democrat. They're wondering, you know, if I'm going to be able to say something that would resonate with them. And many times I've opened with a simple poll. How many people out here, when thinking about their government, feel beholden to it more than served by it? And you'll find that, you know, universally, I mean, even if they're there entertaining, if they're a Republican or at least not registered as a Democrat, and they're going to see one of these town halls, they all find themselves there, or they wouldn't be there. And I think that's just another example to where what I was saying earlier about the industry standards and how the levers seem to get pulled always in their way. And they, you know, it's just another frustrating fact that everybody is dealing with. And we're really just trying to make sure that, you know, let's not lose sight. Let's, you know, we can, you know, shareholders can get their profits and everything, but at the expense of what? At the expense of patients, at the expense of people who are looking for help, who know that this works for them, and it's something that they could, their quality of life would be improved. But then at the same time, you know, you have all these gatekeepers who go into these industries, and suddenly there's no other competition. There's no room for anybody to home grow. And we see prices continue to exponentially go up. So even people who go to these for their medical needs, you know, they're getting priced out of it. So yeah, it's, you know, and that's, you know, the the cannabis industry and everything, the titans of this industry, so to speak, they don't have the monopoly on this business model. It's prevalent, and I think it's just one of the facets of people's lives that just are so frustrating, especially when you're a voter just looking for, you know, somebody who's going to see things your way and get you the results of you voted them into office. You're looking for something that's like, wow, this is satisfying. This is what I voted for. And we just don't get it.
You know, what's interesting is so we had Nikki Fried on the show.
Yep.
A month or you know, a little while back.
Yes.
And I remember, you know, we brought up my parents before and how I have these conservative Cuban parents, but you know, I'm hanging out with my dad, and he was like, "Oh, I saw you have Nikki Fried coming on the show. Can you tell her that I like her?" And I was like, what are you talking about, Dad? And he's like, "No, I think she's actually really cool." And I'm like, that's exactly the person that you shouldn't think is really cool. And you know, but you look at him from his point of view, and it's like the things that he's seen from Nikki Fried. Nikki Fried isn't being plastered all over Fox News about you should hate this bitch because she's a communist. You know what I mean? That's not happening. The things that he's seen is he's seen her fighting for gun rights. He's seen her fighting, you know, getting arrested in Tallahassee for protesting after dark. You know, he's seen her form a hemp industry that his son was able to enter and be successful at. You know, he looks at her and you know, even during our show, I was like, I was gonna make a comment, but I didn't. But there was part of the show where she was like, we can all agree that like big government is shit. Like we don't probably not in those words. But, you know, the point she was trying to say was like, yeah, we need government, but you know, if government can get the hell out of people's lives, you know, we shouldn't bring it in. You know,
I believe she was making a comment about her THC drinks, and it's like, hey, if I'm, you know, here, and she made the comment about, you know, the issue of marijuana being more libertarian. Hey, if I can drink this and everything, and you know, it's all good, you know, fuck off, you know.
there you go.
Get out of my way. So
you're the one person that saw that show.
Yeah,
we found our fan.
Well, I would hope not. I mean, there's a lot of I've talked to so many people over the years of my life, and just, you know, everything's like, yeah, man, weed's great and everything, and you know, this is awesome, and you know that you know, there's a lot more people who would be served by this show and everything, as far as like the information that you're giving out. You guys clearly are not fly by night. It seems like you've been an institution in this part of Florida for years now.
Thank you.
Except for the fact that I've got lousy Wi-Fi over here, so I constantly freeze up. But
well, there is that.
That's just life in Hernando County, which I'm certain you can fix, right?
What's that?
That's life in Hernando County. I'm sure you can fix it, but we have a lot of spots that are dead as far as Wi-Fi is concerned.
Like, that is on my list of things to do. That is on my list of things to do.
Chris, so the point that I was trying to make though was you know, if you take somebody that's Republican and you sit them down and they look at somebody like yourself, where you know you're a veteran, you got a good head on your shoulders, you want to take care of people. Most Republicans are good people. They can look at a guy like yourself and be like, you know, this guy's not, you know, some satanic communist that's gonna try to screw me over. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering, are you seeing any resistance? Like you're basically running in a very red part of the state. Are you seeing a lot of resistance from conservatives, or are you seeing what I'm talking about, where you're sitting down and most people are like, you know what, not this guy's kind of cool?
Well, you are right. This is probably one of the reddest regions, certainly in the state, maybe in the country. I mean, I joke with people that the color red, when it wants to get some self-awareness as to how red it is, looks to Congressional District 12 to make sure that it's level set. But yeah, no, I look, I know that there are people that are out there who are just by almost, they're going to bristle immediately when they see that I'm a Democrat. And I know that I've been talking to people for campaign events, that part of the frustration with life in these United States these days are dealing with people who are in their family, who they can't just, well, I just won't go over here, I just won't engage this person. These are people who are family members who are, staunchly Republican in their political views, and make sure that that's everything you know about them. What I say is that you're right and everything in explaining that in spite of our differences or where we fall in the political spectrum, we actually do have a lot more in common than we don't. I'll give you a case point. I had a relative who I never ever thought would support my politics. Since that initial assessment, I've had to adjust that, because even though neither of us have changed in our political views, we have found common ground on several issues. We believe that the minimum wage should be higher. We didn't forget the Cold War and realize that Russia is the aggressor in Ukraine, and and other issues that came up. And not only have they supported me, they donated to my campaign. Go figure. Never thought that they would let a ballot with a D at the end of the name, and never thought that they would even indicate that way. They probably still wouldn't, but to get that far with that, hey, I'm good with that. And I tell people, listen, start with the issues that people really care about. Yes, we were talking about marijuana legalization. I would bet you would find a lot of people with that share your beliefs. But there's also affordability. We're all getting smacked by this economy. You're talking about, medical care. People don't want a system that when you get sick, it makes you poor. And because you're poor, it keeps you sick. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to support our teachers. They want to give them not only just better salary, but more autonomy in their classes. So yes, supporting education, supporting our environment. These are things that people really like. Like I have the pleasure of being near the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, I call it the Gulf of Mexico. I'm not a boater, I'm not a fisher, I'm not a hunter, but I see that throughout the year. I can watch and see, okay, well, this is duck hunting season. Wow, the boats are out and everything today. Even though I don't partake in those, I don't care anybody who's able to go out there. If I'm watching and making sure that we don't have an environment to where there's oil gushing from the bottom of the Gulf, and there's an oil slick right off the shore that's coming up on the beach and everything, I'm good with that. I don't have to go out there and enjoy it. I guarantee you many of those people also don't share my political values, but I'm okay with them enjoying it. I want them to enjoy it, and I want to defend the environment just like they would. So yes.
When Carlos and I got involved in this in the fight, this was before it was even a law here in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And one thing I noticed, that all the advocates got together and we talked to the same people in Tallahassee. I grant you, some of the Republicans ran faster, even though a lot of them were older and balder. But I kind of relate to that.
Their step when they see you coming, huh?
But after a while, it was the Democrats were starting to switch the way, but it was the voters who were working as a block. It wasn't a matter of Republicans, people who were in favor of cannabis, and Democrats who were in favor of cannabis. We worked as one because it didn't make any difference what the political party was or the person sitting next to you. Mm-hmm. That has changed, and that schism has weakened the movement. And yet, as far as voters are concerned, we're still talking about a topic that is really nonpartisan. We really see just as many people who are in favor of it in both parties.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just one of those issues that it goes beyond just the party situation. Now, here in Hernando County, interesting, we just had an election a couple of weeks ago, and of the 150,000 registered voters in that state senatorial district, 20,000 people vote. 11,000 people voted for Ralph Masulo, who's a friend and who also is heavy into the hemp market. And the candidate we got from the Democrats, they got what would basically be equivalent, because of the fact that only 20,000 voters out of 150,000 voters were actually voting in that district.
Right. Yes.
But I have a feeling that the midterms are going to be different as far as turnout is concerned. And the NPAs are going to be out in full force too. And
yes.
I don't think they've really decided exactly where they want to be on this. And I looked at the results with the senatorial election, and the Democrat could have won, actually, if the turnout was higher, because there was plenty of registered Democrats who did not vote in that election for that particular thing.
Right.
And I'm hoping that we can get a chance to see all the candidates and not just the candidates from one party, because we really need to educate the voters.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm quite familiar with that election. For a while, I was talking about that campaign as much as I was talking about my own whenever I made my public appearances. And yes, that was close. I believe that Ash Marwah came within 6 percentage points of that. And so, you had but there was definitely the issue you're talking about as far as the participation. We seem to have a recurring issue with that. What does they count? Like, I heard one figure and everything. I have to check the validity of what they said, because I wasn't able to. It's like 70 million people during the 2024 presidential election stayed home. I mean, it's really, really tough. Now, mind you, the special election and everything did have challenges and everything. It was a special election. It was a short burn, but we were, and it took place during the holidays, but we were still able to really, really make things a lot closer. The only one that came closer, it was a partial area of the county, but Pasco County came within 4, and Hernando came in within 6. There were 2 other counties. There were Citrus and Sumter that were involved in SD11. But I mean, still, it was something that, yeah, you're right. We do need people to be more involved with things. A lot of times that everything people are just in a siege mentality, not because they don't like politics. It's just because they're dealing with so many things on a regular basis. I mean, every priority has to be dealt with right then, right now. It's urgent. It's an existential threat, such as being able to afford stuff, being able to send your kids to school. The insurance issue that we have here in Florida is just killing so many people. Healthcare. I hear that all the time. Healthcare. And so it's very difficult for people to, I could see that. A lot of people are just saying, well, I just keep my head down, just take a deep breath, I'll be all right. But then they're not really able to dive into the issues and everything as early as campaigns like mine and others really need them. We were like, I'm constantly, wanting to do more, wanting to have more stuff. And we have like a lot of dedicated people, but right now their time is being pulled. First of all, a lot of them are working full time. They're raising families. They're dealing with life in and of itself. And then there are other political parties that they can get to, or clubs or campaigns, what have you, that are, I wouldn't say competing, but they have their choice. And it's something that, is a little bit further, which kind of brings us back to the benefits of medical marijuana, or just recreational, that people just want to. I heard from somebody yesterday that they're talking to their people about all the advocacy that's going on and everything at this stage. And although we see great results and great turnout for things, there is a sense of advocacy trauma, where people are really, really tired. They've been fighting a battle which just seems forever. And I know that I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when I say this and everything, that people who are supporting these movements, these campaigns, who are showing up to the protests, are out there in the heat, in the cold, in the bad weather, dealing with monster trucks that sit there and they rev their engines and everything, and they get a a high sign from an administration supporter. They're tired, and people really need to take care of themselves, because it's such a long haul. It's tough to do, but it's so important. So I know I've rambled on this a little bit and everything, but if I like that fact that I can go and have medical marijuana access to me when I'm dealing with a tough day, and I have the aches of walking around all over the place trying to get petitions. And so I know it's a tough sell, but if not now, when? I think that's where it is. So if we can get more people to participate throughout and get more people to the polls, we can do this, and we could get more of the desirable results that we're looking for.
Now the next big date for you, of course, is going to be in April. That is qualification day. That is when everybody who is a candidate has to have either enough petitions signed or have enough cash.
Yes.
I've always been somewhat circumspect about candidates who are not incumbents, but suddenly have $500,000 out of the gate. At the very beginning, automatically qualified, don't have to go out and get petitions. They just buy their way in.
Right.
Now,
right.
You are in track to get that qualification done, and you're doing it the hard way.
Yes. I mean, it's one of those things. There was an interesting development of this, but I will comment on this. Yes, it's one of those things that I get asked, do I have corporate sponsorship? Do I corporate PAC? Where am I getting my money from? All my money is coming from grassroots. We that's what we're doing. We are a grassroots campaign, because we know that's what the people are looking for. And I'm not the only one. Everyone that I know who is doing this is doing through grassroots, because it's important. It's what the people need. It's what we want in our representatives. If I was looking into someone else, that would be one of the main qualifiers of it right now, because we talk about the triangulation or I've talked about the triangulation of issues and the pursuit of trying to get motions passed, get laws signed, that when people, they look and they say, yes, let's all do this, and we got our guy, and wow, that's not what I voted for. That's not, I was kind of hoping we would have something more robust rather than the final result. We knew he got slaughtered in committee, but did you fight as much as I was hoping you would? Yeah. So that's one of the things I know, that pursuing that and everything. First of all, I don't have the money and everything, but we are building that, by face to face, signing petitions when I'm there, when I'm not there. We're fielding volunteers in critical areas throughout the district as it sits right now, and we'll continue to do that, because you just can't replace that face to face interaction, or that realness of somebody who is just like, yes, I've at least seen the name. I at least know where they're going towards, and I have some idea of his policies. That's good enough. I want to see that on the ballot. Interestingly enough, there was a change in the wake. I don't want to take up too much of time, but basically right now we're in an apportionment year. Since Governor DeSantis called for the special session that would take place in April, he has now triggered an apportionment year, which means all of those factors that you just mentioned are different. Our petition count, my petition count has gone from 5,583 to 2,564. I believe that's the exact number. So now my petition threshold has gone down. The qualification period has now gone from April to June. And I was initially beholden to only be able to get petitions signed from registered voters who registered to vote in Congressional District 12. That is no longer the case. I can now get a petition signed by anybody registered to vote in the state of Florida. So
where can people go to help you out?
Yes, absolutely. You can go to chrisforchange.com. As we talked about earlier, change is great, and that's the name on the website, where you can go. You can download petitions to send them. There's a P.O. box listed there that you could send your signed petition. Make sure you print your name and the date that you filled it out, because those seem to be the common ones that don't get done. There is also my ActBlue QR code is on the website. You could donate it, $5, $10, $20. Everything helps right now because we have a positive message. We need the resources to be able to continue to drive and engage people. We also have we're updating the website to provide more policies as they come on board. You could also, there is a new ability that's coming on to where you could schedule time with the candidate and everything and make a request to talk to an individual. You can also volunteer with our volunteer form to talk about all the things that you can do that you would like to do. And we are now having the infrastructure to plug those volunteers in to where they get contacted. This just the past few days, starting from Thursday, I have been to the southernmost eastern part of the district and to the northernmost part of the district just over the last few days. And we have signed, the campaign now has boots on the ground in Wesley Chapel. Then we now have boots on the ground in Odessa. We now have boots on the ground in Citrus Hills. So we have people over there who are ready to plug in, ready to do it, ready to support the campaign. And we could certainly use more. We're going to be expanding in all 3 counties, and we're going to continue to do this, and we're going to continue to do this all the way through November.
All right. Carlos, you have a last question for our candidate?
No. You don't know White Boy Rick, so
Oh yeah, no. See, I just don't have the bona fides, man. I just don't have it. Sorry.
You should check out that movie. That's a good movie.
I'll check. I will definitely check out White Boy Rick. What a great way to sign off a podcast, huh?
Absolutely. And guys, we are going to be in Tallahassee again this week. We have Cannabis at the Capitol coming up on the 14th and 15th with FCAN. We'll be out there, and we'll be talking to the representatives there about the bills that they have signed there and the bills that need to get pushed forward. As usual, we now have both the House and Senate version of our bill that will allow people to retain parental rights if they have a medical cannabis card in the family. If the kids do not have access to the product at all, and if that is the only issue in the house, that is not considered reasonable a reason to take away parental rights. We're hoping that this bill goes through. We're hoping that also our bill that promotes employee rights, that allows them to keep their job if they have a medical card. And we have other bills that didn't quite make it to be filed, but will probably be connected to other bills. So we're going to be working hard. And if you want to work hard with us, you got to help us. And we want you to get involved. So go to suncoastnormal.org and sign up. We have our little QR code in the corner there, Carlos.
Let me see. I don't know if I have it still.
It's been one of those days.
I don't think we have it on this.
Well, go to suncoastnormal.org and you'll find it. You'll sign up, and you can go with us if you want, and talk to your representatives, talk to your senators, and get things moving. By all means, get involved, regardless of your party. We want to hear what you have to say. I think that's exactly what I think would be the theme of the whole thing today. So with that, I wish you all a great week. If ICE is in the neighborhood, blow your whistle. Feel free. I don't think it's a crime yet.
You might get shot. Just a few things that I would like to bring up. So we wanted to put one creative thing that I was trying to do a long time ago, probably like 10 years ago at this point, was to put together a calendar to raise money for Suncoast Normal. And I opened up Chillum, and a bunch of projects went by the wayside. But I recently got a new camera, and we're opening up a Smoke the Rainbow calendar photo shoot. And if any models, including male models, please, male models, sign up. Go to our website, suncoastnormal.org. In the events section, you can RSVP. Here's the page. If you're a cannabis patient in the state of Florida, and you're interested in advocating and helping, helping us, raise money for legalization, this is a really great way to do that. You know, and you know,
Suncoast Normal, right?
Suncoastnormal.org.
You said models. You said male models, so Suncoast Normal.
You're signing up. You're signing up. I could get. I could get. I'll take pictures of you smoking a bong.
Can we have a booyah on that one?
Let's what is it here? Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. I gotta stop getting those confused.
Yeah, I'll go with booyah.
And I just made this awesome graphic. So if we have a new Instagram, but please subscribe to our YouTube channel. YouTube is probably the best way to check out what we got going on. And I've got this cool graphic that is not supposed to have a white background, but it does. But like, comment, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. And that's it for me.
Yeah. And by the way, the reason we have a new Instagram is also the reason why we had to fix our Facebook this last week. Meta is not our friend right now. I don't know what's going on. But be careful what you get on social media. I am definitely stuck in the algorithm where trolls only. Now I'll come to my page. So, so be careful of social media. Get your information from sources with proper references. Don't go for AI slop or for AI generated videos, which give you different views on things that never happened.
If I may say, I'm quite thrilled to be able to say is I also have social media. There's my Facebook page, but I have Instagram, and I also am on TikTok, and I do have a YouTube channel which receives most, if not all, of my video media content.
And you are accessible. People can contact you.
Yes, absolutely. All
right, with that, guys, I'm sorry I'm frozen, but have a great week. Stay peaced.
YouTube?